There are plenty of community events that celebrate local culture through the lens of sheep and wool. Sienna Wildfield is the founder of HilltownFamilies.org. She joins us this morning with more information. Sienna, nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Happy spring.
Thank
now,
you.
This is the time of year when we think about flowers and gardening, and really it's also a time to think about new life.
Yes.
And when we talk about sheep and wool and lambs, it's really about looking back into the roots of our culture.
Sure. We have our history, our wool history and our sheep history here in Massachusetts has a long history that is really rooted in a lot of events that we do, a lot of the history around the events, and there's a lot going on that has to do with sheep and wool.
Right. Agriculture is so much a part of our history. We want to keep that alive.
Yeah.
So springtime is when we think about baby animals being born. Let's talk about lambs and what we can learn from them.
Yeah, so we've just come through lambing season, and a lot of the farms have now baby animals. A lot of the living history museums have baby animals, and it's great opportunities to go out with your kids and get to see the baby animals on the farms, be able to learn about farm life, and then to be able to start to talk about what is the importance of sheep within our culture.
Exactly, and now through May 3rd, actually Hancock Shaker Village has the lambs there, so you can go and see these newborn
baby animals on a Shaker farm. Sure.
And we're looking at these beautiful photos that actually, I have to say, you took these
yes,
photos,
I did.
Sienna.
Yes, this one's from that one was from Redgate Farm, which is another farm that you can go to, an educational farm. And some of these other photos are from like the Massachusetts Sheep and Wool Craft Fair and other events that also highlight sheep and wool during this time of year.
Now, once you've gone to see the lambs, the next step in their life is the sheep shearing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so after the ewes have their babies, it's typically time to do the shearing. And there's a lot of events that you can go to where you can actually see sheep being shorn using traditional tools. And then you can also learn about like anatomy and physiology of the sheep as they're shearing. And the shearers also talk a lot about the different lore about sheep and within our culture. And then you can start to think, well, what happens to the wool after it's shorn? What's the next process in this shearing?
Right, so how is that used? A lot of what we wear, and I mean, this is really where we get material, the resources for the clothes that we wear and the things that we have in our homes.
Yeah.
So it's a great educational experience for children and adults. Let's talk about sheep herding.
Yes. So also at some of these events where you can go and see the sheep shearing, you can also learn about how border collies are used to help herd the sheep and to help the farmers keep them within the pasture and keep them safe. And it's fascinating to watch because the farmer or the shepherd is communicating with the border collie using a series of whistles, and it's amazing to watch how they communicate exactly what it is that they want them to do and how fast they want them to herd the sheep. And it's remarkable to start thinking about what is the difference between like these domestic animals, about how the sheep behave and how the dog behave and then how they interact together. So there's a lot of opportunities to start the conversation and learn about domestic animals and within the farming industry here.
That'd be so neat to see that demonstration. To see, I mean, we know like we love dogs, we love animals, but to see them interact and what they're really traditionally, what their purpose was to do as a job, as a working animal.
Yes, yes, and there's so much history that's involved there. You know, colonial history, Wool Days that happens at Old Sturbridge Village, and there's another event that happens up in Williamstown that really focus on the history, the colonial history of the wool and also the sheep, and it's a great way to go and learn about how they might have traditionally take the wool and like card it and spin it and make it into products, and it's really a lot of learning that has to do around sheep and wool this time of year.
So fascinating, so important. Thank you, Sienna, for sharing this information, and people can go to your website, HilltownFamilies.org, to see all about these events. Great to have you here.
My pleasure.
Coming up on